Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. Call me cynical, but as the old saying goes, I fear the Greeks even when they come bearing gifts. Except in this case, the gifts that they're bearing aren't for us. Now, I know that this morning's briefing is probably going to hit a little note with some people, but let me say right off the bat, this is not a judgmental or finger-wagging session. It's just a statement of what's really going on here. Now, there's been a lot of talk recently about the whole student loan debt forgiveness thing. Elizabeth Warren was talking about it. Bernie Sanders was talking about it. Apparently, Joe Biden's going to do it, and just in time for the midterm elections. Good timing. As far as black people are concerned with all this, if you're somebody who needs it, take the money. I'm not saying don't. What I am saying don't do is to elevate Biden to the level of the great liberator, and I know that there's a lot of shills and clowns out there and people who are probably getting paid who are trying to find a way to say, oh, this means that Biden, looks how much Biden's be doing for us. He didn't do it for black people. The man's been in politics for 50 years. What the hell has he ever done for black people? He's done a lot of stuff to black people, not anything for black people. So what makes you think that he's suddenly discovered religion now? Has he come forward and said, look, I told black folks I got your back and look at this? No. When it comes to black folks, everyone else practices total and complete ingratitude. That's what I'm telling any black folks to do in regards to this. This country owes every crumb of bread that it eats and every breath that it takes. Everything they own and their children and everything they have, they owe it to the work that we put in. But the nation spits in our faces every single day. We have broken our backs and given our blood, literally, for this country, and no matter what we've done or who we've done it for, it always ends the same way. Basically, with everybody else saying to us, thanks, suckers, and then walking away. In many cases, they don't even have the courtesy to say, thanks, suckers. They just walk away. Yet we keep insisting on pledging eternal loyalty and friendship to anyone merely if they say hi to us as they walk by. Some black people think that it's cute to be the grateful Negro. I say that it's not. Now, the white media coverage of this program has been highlighting black people quite a bit, and they've been doing it so they could say loudly and clearly, you Negroes should be grateful. Why? Look at all we're doing for you. As if this was done with us in mind. Who are the biggest beneficiaries of this student loan debt forgiveness program? Who's going to benefit from it the most? Who's the largest number of people who are going to be taking part in it? Who will the government have to spend the most money to pay the debts of? Not black people. Yet when it comes to racializing this issue, the white media makes sure to put black folks front and center. If they mention anybody by race when it comes to this, they make sure it's going to be black people who they mention. It's like the housing crisis. They want to make black people the face of it. So everybody says, well, this mostly had to do with black people. Those lazy Negroes. Always costing the country so much money. As I see it, the Democrats, along with everyone else, has a huge debt that they owe to us. And there will be no gratitude until those debts get paid. And guess what? Student loans wasn't part of the deal. That has absolutely nothing to do with what this country owes. See, this is the reason why you got some folks out there, they were laying the groundwork for this a long time ago, talking about student loan forgiveness should be considered reparations. So here you got these people coming along. Here's a student loan forgiveness program. Ain't got a dang thing to do with black folks. It's just for everybody. But you have some Negroes out there saying, see, this is reparations. This is reparations. Well, how do you explain white folks and Hispanics and Asians, everybody else getting a piece of it? That means they're getting reparations too, stupid. This is a gift to white constituents because this government has never moved one thin dime if they thought it was going to benefit black people. This is one of those lift all boats programs. It's a gift for everybody. But they mention black people specifically because they know that a lot of black folks are desperate for acknowledgement and that some black folks make it a habit to be so grateful for even the slightest gesture. They will pledge eternal loyalty to the powers that be if they mention us merely in passing. How does this program address the racial wealth gap, which is the real problem? It doesn't. See, that's the core of the issue. If black people had not been locked out of being able to acquire wealth in this country, much less accumulate it, then most of you who took loans, you wouldn't have needed a loan in the first place. That's the core of the problem. People get loans because they don't have the cash on hand. And people need loan forgiveness programs because they didn't have the means to pay the loan that they got in the first place. You see, loan forgiveness programs are a symptom of a far greater disease, and the disease itself is not how astronomically huge the loans may be or the interest rates. The actual disease is that you got a society that bakes into the cake that certain people are going to need loans regardless, keeping people in a perpetual state of being debtors for life. Debt peonage is what it is. Now, after this loan forgiveness program is over, the white students, they're going to still be a lot better off than their black counterparts. In fact, they're better off now. You can look at the qualifications and the details of the loan forgiveness terms to see that one. You can get loan forgiveness if you make over $100,000 a year. People who make up to $125,000 a year can apply for it. And that's just for a single person. Now, for couples or people who are heads of households, the number goes up to $250,000 joint income. So you can have a situation, and you will have situations, where you got white debtors who make $250,000 a year as a doctor or an engineer or whatever, and this person's going to have a wife at home and a house that they're paying for. They got the mortgage and the kids, steadily saving, and yet that individual making $250,000 a year, they're going to be able to get loan forgiveness because they're married and head of household, and they're going to be covered under one of the two. Now tell me something. How many black people can you think of who are in that situation, making over $100,000 a year, just as an individual? Forget about as head of household. How many black couples can you think of who have student debt but together make $250,000 a year? Doesn't giving loan forgiveness to someone in that tax bracket seem just a little bit strange to you for those black folks who are thinking, oh, this is about black, they trying to do something for black folks? Black people's student loan debt would be comparative pennies in relation to everybody else, especially the dominant society. This program was tailor-made for someone all right, and it wasn't black people. Most black students I can think of never got a job in whatever their chosen field of study was. Whatever they went to school for, that's not what they got a job in. Black people, especially black men with a college degree, are considered no more qualified for a job than a white person who graduated from high school. You'll have a master's in psychology, but you'll be working at Mickey D's or some menial job, data processing or whatever, but it's not going to be in your field of study. Look, as far as student loan debt forgiveness goes, hey, if you can get it, good for you. I'm not saying turn anything down but your collar. I'm just saying to take the money and run. They didn't have a way to do this without having to give black people something too. And it was not going to be giving black folks much of anything at all, so they could go ahead and afford to do this because it wasn't going to cost them anything. The racial wealth gap would not be impacted. The racial pecking order is still going to be the same as it was before. The white student debtors, they're going to have whatever $100,000 a year or $200,000 a year jobs that they had. Or at the very least, they're going to have the benefit of no longer having that massive debt on their credit reports. And that's going to help them out because when it comes time for them to be getting homes or business loans or whatever. But black folks, that's not going to change the equation for black people. It's not going to change the math at all. A whole lot of opportunities are going to be made a lot easier for white recipients of student loan cancellations. For the black recipients, it'll be good to at least not have to be having so much of the money and so much of the income going totally to service a doggone degree that didn't do you any good to begin with. But the question is, what after that? The student loan debt will be gone, but the problem that compels a disproportionate number of black students to have to be forced to get loans in the first place, that problem will still be there. Just keep that in mind while all this is going on. It is ponderous, indeed oppressive, to be saddled with debt or wind up spending whatever money that you make at whatever menial job you have, all of it going just to service an educational loan that didn't do you any good in the first place. Let's show some political sophistication. Let's not have any grateful Negro syndrome kicking in here. This has nothing to do with reparations, doesn't address the racial wealth gap, and it does not change the status quo. So that being the case, it's a nothing burger in holistic terms. We got to be bold about that. Because the biggest tragedy would be if black people went through all this and still didn't learn anything from the experience. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Frank Den, Michael, Brandon Cherry, Earl Jackson, and Richard Lovell. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.